Hi everyone, delonewolf here. Welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. And well, you can maybe see it from the ticker already. Tritanium back up, plex back up, Megasite back down. It looks like it may already be over with the stable period. What I thought was pretty interesting is that CCP Fozzy tweeted that they already had like a successful first in-house test, actual combat test with a Citadel. So it's pretty cool. CCP is hard at work on those, and I really think that we're gonna start to get more and more hype being built around the Citadels as CCP keeps testing it themselves and then hopefully bringing it to CC so we can take a first look at all of that ourselves. It looks pretty damn cool, and so I'm looking forward to everything developing. Of course, we're here to see what the impact is going to be on the market, and as always we will start with plex, which have gone back up. So we're now at 1225 at 1.225 billion ISK for the sellers, 1.211 billion for the buyers. So only a 15 million margin, which is pretty much normal. So it's really the buyers have had to step up here, and the effects from the sales that happened late last year is really gone. Here the price is up. Of course, a major contributor to this, oh, and I actually forgot, so I'll just write down 1 minute and I'll check later on. But the effect here is of course going to be accentuated by the announcement that skill trading is going to be in the game come February in the release. So the impact here, we can also see that volumes have gone up here in the last few days. So that's probably since the dev block where CCP announced that the skill trading is going to come in. People that just want in on the market without spending real money, want in on that skill trading action, are going to need plex to convert it to Aurum. So at first there is going to be, I think, an increased amount in plex, and this will increase the price. Of course, there's also probably a large majority of the game that don't even know about this just yet. So I do think that speculating on plex prices at the moment could be a good idea, because if players all of a sudden read and see about this new item in game and they learn about that for the first time, they'll be wondering, well, how can I get my hands on that myself without paying real money? They'll find out about that it's in a new Eden store, and so they'll probably try to buy a plex on the market regardless of the price. And so we could be in for a pretty wild ride when it comes to plexes. On top of that, it has always been my experience that as we approach an expansion, an actual expansion, there's always a little bit of a speculative drive on plexes as well, probably preparing for people that come back that may want to use stuff like the minutes for plex, so they can just activate their account for a few minutes, buy a plex on the market, and then reactivate their account like that, and that tends to increase the price of plex as well. We could be in for a double whammy, but of course it's not like we've shot up to the moon just yet. We're not at the high of 1.25 billion just yet. It's going to be interesting to see how quickly the price of plex is going up, but that's my opinion. I do think that right now there are two things that are going to drive the price of plex up: both the skill trading and the increasing hype for the Citadel expansion. I think could drive speculators to say, okay, I'm actually going to start taking that risk. So for me personally, I made my move earlier on when they first announced that skill trading is going to probably come into the game. You know, that they're having that internal discussion and that they opened it up to the player base. That's when I said, okay, at some point this is going to come into the game and this will increase the price of plex. So I'm already ready for anything that happens next. The multiple pilot training certificate, of course, following plex quite closely. This is pretty normal because they basically do the same thing. And on the volumes, yeah, maybe a little bit higher volumes than what's average, except if you don't look at the sales period, then maybe it could be just up a little bit. But of course, the volumes are so different that it just doesn't matter that much. It's just very closely following plex, and it's going to continue to do so. Next up, the pilot's body resculpt certificate, up a little bit, but at least not as sharply as plex's. So again, showing that it doesn't follow plex like to a T, but of course it is influenced by plex. Plex have just shot up once again, so have the training certificate, certificates of course, and then anything that's going to be tied to real life money, to the New Eden store, is going to go up as well. And so that's why we get here a slight uptick in the body resculpt. Maybe a quick look at the prices for the trading certificate. 1.220, so just lagging behind on plex just a little bit, which I think is the normal story for the multiple pilot trading certificate. It tends to follow plex very closely, but it's usually behind it a little bit. And so what's interesting here, of course, we see in the decline that the multiple pilot trading certificate actually went ahead of plex, and the reason for that was, of course, a very exceptional sale, I think, only in the multiple pilot trading certificates that happened here. So this is actually a little bit of an anomaly. The fact that we're seeing these trading certificates just behind the increasing price of plex is actually the normal behavior for these. Moving on to the minerals. I'm pretty interested here in titanium, and I'll write down 630. Because yeah, that one went back up. Oh, and it's already being refilled again. So when I was checking for titanium just around like maybe 10 minutes ago from this recording, it was like up to 672. So in the meantime, you can see here in like 5 minutes we do have probably almost 400 million units that are being brought to the market here, trying to go a little bit lower towards 665. So titanium chart, you can see that we went back down here, but we still stayed just above 1.1. Oh, well, we're actually on the wrong chart. How the hell is that possible? Because this is definitely not the mineral chart. Let's take 6-month chart, repress titanium. And here is the titanium chart. Okay, I was thinking, what the hell is happening? Are we paying billions for titanium now? So that didn't seem to quite come true, but all right. So titanium selling for 665, but we have a few very recent orders coming in that drove it basically down a little bit from 670. And we can clearly see here that it's actually a little bit of a breakout. So titanium had been managing to stay between 6.2 and 6.4 ISK. But here we are definitely breaking out of that normal zone, which we've been able to actually maintain for a few months now. I thought the stability was only a few weeks old, although you can again see here with a low at 620, this could have been a start of something. The increase here and here could have been the start of a breakout as well. It's only here in the last few weeks that we really traced right around the 6.3 ISK, but that stability has been broken. We have a little bit of a breakout in titanium, and it's going to be interesting to see if it has legs. Volumes have gone up, that's pretty obvious. So I do think that this could be because CCP just said, well, look at that, we have the successful playtest with Citadels. People are starting to become more and more aware that the expansion is drawing closer, and so people will be making their preparations for that. Buyers have had to step up towards 6.6 ISK at this point. The buy orders here, 1 billion units. Just around an hour old. That's quite a bit, and a few of 200 million units as well. So demand slightly, I think, outstripping supply at the moment, putting the pressure on the price. The buyers having to step up to 6.6 ISK, which is right here on the chart. Pretty much, am I right? Yeah, means that the chart has still to catch up to the actual situation at the moment, and if they manage to maintain that, then yeah, titanium will have shot up quite a little bit all of a sudden from its normal range that it managed to maintain for the last few weeks of around 6.3 ISK. Pretty interesting and also unexpected in my book. I thought everything would have been incalculated by now. Next up here we've got some pyrite, which shot up like probably last week and is now trying to trade just above 11.3 ISK, managing to maintain that. So I think that's actually decent news for Isaac miners again. Decent price for pyrite, although of course not at a 6-month high in the same way that titanium clearly is. Pyrite here still having to retrace a little bit from a top. But yeah, 1134 for the sellers, 1120 for the buyers. That looks quite alright. When it comes to volumes here, look at that. Again, a pretty recent buy order of 400 million units. That is of course going to put a little bit of a floor on the price for now, and the sellers here 45 and one bigger order of 170 million units trying to sell at 1140 pretty much. So slowly still working its way up, and again slight edge to demand compared to supply. Pretty interesting. Next up we've got Mexalon, which well, also it's not very visible here, but maybe if I go for the one month chart, yeah, you can see it right here. Mexalon had really been doing a very slow and steady retreat towards basically 6.60 ISK, I would say, pretty much. You can see here the 5-day moving average is touching that, but what is interesting here is that we're going back up. We've clearly also crossed the 20-day moving average, so it could be the beginning of a slight increase in price for Mexalon here. I think it's in the books. Supply demand is going to probably be an indication here. And as you can see here, supply at 61 ISK has been dropping to 5 million, 7 million, one of 22 million. But here, just less than a day old, 400 million units being bought above 60 ISK is of course going to keep the price from really fluctuating anywhere below that or anywhere close that. And we could be in for slightly higher prices for Mexalon as well. And again, slight edge to demand, well, even decent edge, I would say, to demand for Mexalon here at the moment, which could put some pressure on the price of plex to increase. Next up here we've got Isogen, the one high-sec mineral that seems to be doing the exact opposite, still going down from a top of above 125 ISK. We have just broken 105 now, 103.85 for the sellers, buyers at 101 ISK, 4 million units. Here we still have a seller at 23 million units. So Isogen is the exact opposite story. It is trying to stay above 100 ISK at the moment, but we still see more supply than demand when it comes to Isogen, and as a result that price is still going down. So high-sec minerals, most of them are doing quite alright and actually have high demand. Isogen is the one that's doing the exact opposite and is still going down from its high around 3 months ago. Next up we've got Noxium, of course, the in-between one, tried to shoot up to 490. Unfortunately, it is going to be short-lived, so it looks like this was not meant to last. It's probably just null-sec supply that is back kicking in once again. The reason I'm thinking that is because you could already have seen from the ticker below that Megasite moved back down as well. So we tried to go up to 490, we managed to just touch that, but then increased supply is of course taking over once again, and you can see all the recent orders, a full front page, less than a day old pretty much, driving the price back down here, whereas buyers are very happy to stay right around 470 ISK to try to pick up their Noxium, which is right here at the very bottom of the chart. So Noxium, it went up for just a couple of days, and that's really all there is to say. You had a slight opportunity to sell for like 15-20 ISK more than normal when it comes to Noxium. Not really good news for the null-sec miners. Next up we'll touch on Zydrine, which did manage to go back up to 1050 ISK, but it looks like the increase in price here is stalling. Let's see what the sellers are at. 1081, the buyers are at 1047. So Zydrine, if I go for the 1 month chart, you can clearly see that 1060 is where apparently the price is starting to stall. We'll see what it will be able to do next, but if Noxium and Megasite are any indication, we're probably going back down. And so Megasite at 1109 is like just touching the Zydrine price, which is pretty crazy to think. There used to be a pretty decent disparity between the price of Zydrine and the price of Megasite. Now both of these null-sec minerals are apparently in such ample supply that there's almost no difference between them anymore. And Megasite of course going down once again, breaking the 20-day moving average right at the tail end here. So look out, we could go lower once again. Supply, look at that, 2/3 of the front page are orders less than 24 hours old. We still have several million units of megasites coming in here, and the competition is right here on the sell orders. And if we look at Zydrine, not that much, so that's interesting. It looks like someone came in and dumped a decent amount of megasite, but not Zydrine, which is the reason why it's lagging behind. But I think it's only a matter of time, because at some point people will say, well, why am I paying as much for Zydrine as I'm paying for megasite? Maybe this sell order price is really not that bad, and people could end up dumping some Zydrine as well in the near future. So I would say look out, because I think Zydrine is going to start retracing pretty soon as well. So pretty interesting. Let's see if we can spot an impact on the Tech 1 chips. 1545 for that one. Let's just get started on this. The Armageddon, after shooting up to 214 million ISK, which should at least have been a somewhat better margin for the producers, is going back down. Does that mean that we're finally seeing some supply? Extremely timid. 3 and 1 more Armageddons being brought in the last 24 hours is still not that much, selling around 214 to 15 million ISK. So yeah, the Armageddon, it's just not being produced at the moment. I guess it's just like the more expensive battleship to produce at the moment from the Tech 1 pool of battleships, and so people are very hesitant to try to make those, which I think is unfortunate, because it is really my favorite PvP battleship. Next up here we've got the Caracal, which drops back down to 11.2 million, which is pretty good news. That means we should have good supply coming in. Yep, exactly here, 314 units coming in, despite the fact that the price is retraced a little bit. Demand is pretty low, so I would think that at some point, if you look at this very low demand, these prices coming back down to 11.2 million, we could see a buyout. Honestly, these 314 units being brought here, they could just get snagged up by a big alliance that wants another Caracal fleet, just because there's no demand, and so the price is pretty damn low for the Caracals in general, even on these sell orders. So I think it could happen, but otherwise it could just start floating around this price range if that doesn't happen as well, which would be alright. You know, finally seeing some stability would be good news. Next up here we've got the Dominix, lovely double spike, trying to go towards 215, but I guess that here supply came in again, exactly 21 units here in the last 24 hours, which is definitely not bad, plugging that gap and bringing the Dominix back to its normal range of around 195 million. Pretty good. Next up here we've got the Drake, slowly stabilizing towards 53 million. Do we have decent supply here? Yes, we do. That looks like a well-stocked market as well, so there is a good chance that the Drake is going to start to stabilize here as well. Next up we've got the Mauler. Obviously that one has been easier to stabilize because it's a cruiser, so it's easier to bring the volumes to the market. Sale volumes though looking pretty nice, honestly. These are decent volumes compared to the rest of the chart here, and so this is why we have this slight bump in the price. But despite that, look at that, decently stocked market, 124 of them coming in the last 24 hours here on a single sell order. That is of course going to keep the price decently in check, I think. Next up here we've got the Myrmidon. Ooh, that's really weird. We went towards 53 million, but now we've clearly been shooting back up, and they're currently selling for 63 million, which is where on the chart? Right here, definitely decently high. The buyers have followed up a little bit, 57 million, so that's right here on the chart. So pretty interesting. Has there been a buyout that we can see in volumes? Yes, there has. Look at that. All of a sudden someone said, okay, 53 million for Myrmidons, that's a really good price. Let's snag a whole lot of them up, bumping the price up by several million for the buyers and the sellers. But what's pretty interesting in my book is that despite that, we still have a decent volume and the immediate response here. So almost all of them are less than 24 hours old, and we're seeing 17, 50, 31. So the competition is here. People are going to try to plug that gap pretty quickly, so we'll probably move back down decently quickly as well, which I think is actually a good sign, despite the fact, of course, that this is a complete break from the stability that we were starting to build. This is quite clearly a big shot up in the price. Next up here we've got the Oracle, finally showing some stability as well, around 80 million ISK, 82 for the sellers, 81.2 for the buyers, and volume wise not too great, but 22, 21, 50 on the older orders is actually quite okay, and then everything else is actually less than 24 hours old. So I think that for these prices this is actually a decently stocked Oracle market. Next up we've got the Raven, as you can see here, really a decent market as well, and that despite the fact that we've just shot up towards 200 million. So that's pretty interesting here once again, less than 24 hours old. Yeah, pretty much the entire front page driving the price back down. So the response to an increase in price does seem to be a little bit faster this time. We're seeing a more stocked market coming back more quickly here, I think. Next up we've got the Stabber, obviously again the peaks that keep decreasing, and we're stabilizing towards 11 million, so 11.4 for the sellers, 171 and 59 of them coming in the last 24 hours, the buyers at 10.4, so right in between there. 11 million for the Stabber is obviously where we are normalizing to. The stocks, again, it doesn't look that good, but 59 and 171 in the last 24 hours is actually not bad, I think. And so yeah, again, slightly we're slightly seeing that these Tick 1 markets are becoming more able to again respond to increases in price and maybe to finally show some stability. The Tornado then did go to a pretty low price of 72 million, shot back towards between 74 and 76, so 75 million. I think that that's actually okay. Let's look if the markets look. I'm really happy to see that the market is actually decently stocked. We still have around 40 of them coming in here to support the current price range, and so 75 for a Tornado is quite alright. This is also there is at least a possibility that this will stabilize just because of the amount of sell orders that keep trickling in as the days go by. Next up here we get the Typhoon. That doesn't look too good, honestly. There's probably like 40-50 Typhoons on the market. We do come right from a pretty decent spike, but again there is one thing that I should note probably at this point. You see this spike, it's from 178 to 194 million, so it's not that huge when it comes to the percentages. It's right around the 10% range, I think. Let's see, we need to add 16 million, so it's even less than 10%. So it's not as bad as it looks, and on a very short order we do come back down towards a more normal price. There are still some coming in the last 24 hours, so that's actually decently alright as well. But the Typhoon is pretty empty, just like the Armageddon. So it looks like the bigger the ship, the harder the Tick 1 industrialists still have to a time to plug these gaps. And next up here we've got the Vixor, who obviously has managed to maintain a pretty stable price between 11.5 and 12 million, actually going down a little bit, and we still have really decent volumes on the market when it comes to the Vixor. But yeah, here we can see that the price has gone down, and we can see that there's still 150 of them coming here, so the pressure is still on here for the Vixor. I actually think that that's going to stop, because why would you produce Vixors that are still going down and have been very stable when there's probably slightly better opportunities out there for your minerals? So it's interesting. I'm still seeing some signs of stability, but there are a few that are clearly breaking the mold, like the Myrmidon here, that shot up quite substantially from the price that it was trying to stabilize around. Interesting Tick 1 market, I must say. Next up we've got some Tick 2 ships. Let's see if we can find some interesting things here. Tick 2 at around 24.20. is what I'll write down. So we can see that the Basilisk last week shot up quite substantially, is of course retracing that a little bit. They're still selling for 200 million, which is not bad if you manage to pick them up at 180 million. But of course your really big sell opportunity has just passed, but it shows that volatility is alive and well in the Tech 2 market. Last week was pretty crazy, with a lot of them shooting up very substantially in price. So the fact that we've not completely crashed down just yet, I think, is a decent sign. Next up, we've got Cerberus, also shot up from 175 to 215 million. Percentage-wise, that's completely different from the Tech 1 market. Of course, we are after a big spike up like that. Of course, we will retrace back towards 195. Yeah, 195 for the sellers, 190 for the buyers. So you'll need some patience if you actually want to move in on a trade like this, because we're nowhere near a good bottom to say that you want to buy. But the sell opportunities, they did definitely show up last week. Interesting here for the Guardian, shot up from 130 to above 145, but it's actually trying to do a little bit of a double number here, still at 145 for the seller. So if you still have Guardians laying around, I actually think it's a good idea to try and unload them at this point. Next up, we've got the Hound, obviously shooting up from 17 to 23 million, and it is still selling for 22.3 million. So if you have them, you can clearly see that a lot of the supply is pretty new, but that the market needs to digest whatever the hell it is that just happened. Yeah, really nice if you moved in on the Hound at this low price of 17 million. That would have been an awesome investment that you can unload right now. And it's like probably less than a month ago that you had several weeks where you could actually have stocked up on this. And I will at some point definitely have said, you know, for a medium term trade, this could actually be a decent investment, not for something too short trade. Obviously this proves me wrong, because pretty short range here, we do shoot up all of a sudden. But this was of course the reason why you would make a move on the Hound, is because something like that could happen at some point in the near future. 17 million was a pretty low price. Next up here, we've got the Ishtar. It's pretty decent if you consider the bottom of 160, but that is of course a pretty short bottom. That was longer ago if you want to be short to be able to take that. So it's a slower move up, but from 160 to 185 is not bad. And of course we are starting to move actually in this price range on a for now for the Ishtar. So you're still in sell order territory, but way too late to actually make the investments at the moment. Next up here, we've got the Manticore. That's pretty interesting. It moved up ahead, I think. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, the Manticore moved up ahead from 20 million to above 26 million before the big spike happened, but already dropped back down to 20 million. So the Manticore, I never really liked that one because he was more expensive than the other ones. And so why would you buy a 20 million Manticore when you could buy some 17 million Hounds, especially if you're looking to trade in on these? Then I think that the Manticore has never really been my favorite ship to do it in, but it was the first one to make its move up. It was the first one where you could actually make a profit on, but that's already over. We're already back down into a range where, well, you could pick up Manticores close to 20 million, but do you think that that's as good an investment as another stealth bomber that's way below that? I personally don't think so. So I don't like the Manticore, but it has proven me wrong on several occasions. Next up here, we've got the Nemesis. Well, I would have definitely preferred some Nemesis at 17 million when I had the chance, because at the moment they're selling for more than 20 million. So we're talking an easy 4 million profit, which is around a quarter of the price, 20% easy profit that was made on the Nemesis. And I definitely noticed this 6-month low when it happened, when we broke 17 million. And I must have said, yeah, the Nemesis, I would definitely consider that as a good opportunity to do some active trading. So I'm really excited by this, honestly. It shows that the Tech 2 market is alive and well. If we see some serious retracing on some of these ships, then we could be in for some more speculative events. But these percentages, of course, here 20-25% increase in price since December, when it was clearly also a 6-month low, an opportunity that was decently easy to spot. This is of course what we're talking about when we're looking for trade opportunities. I'm really happy to see that the Tech 2 market is showing these once again. Olnero's dropping below 145, moving up to 160, decently slowly, so not the best, not the most spiky of behaviors, but we're pretty much empty of these. So if you had made your investments again, it's probably a good time to sell. Next up here we get the Purifier, more risky. Honestly, it did drop probably close to 17 million at some point. Decent shot up to 22 million. That's probably 10-15% that you're gonna get out of that, but already retracing, already breaking the 20-day moving average again. So we're clearly on our way back down for the Purifier. So this one is now, if you have to unload for liquid ISK, then yeah, you could still do it, but you're probably too late on this already. And next up here we've got the Scimitar, moved from 120 million, which was again clearly a bottom of 6 months, shot up to 145, so there's a decent profit to be had there, and still selling for 146. So a nice little double spike I think that's going to be forming here. How violently will they go back down? That's very hard to say beforehand. When it comes to active trading, it is always a little bit of gambling, but I'm really happy to see this actually happen here, because this is a big part of as to why I do ETH Talk. When I don't really know what to do with my ISK, I tend to park most of it in Plex. At the moment I have a clear goal, I'm preparing for citadels, but when I have extra stuff that I feel I can use for trading, the Tech 2 market is, I think, the one where you want to do it. And the last 2 weeks here clearly have shown that there are awesome opportunities with increases of 15, 20, 25% that do happen. If you look at these charts, they tend to happen more than once in a year, and of course if you can then get 50% increase in your ISK on a few good trades, that is of course definitely something worth looking into. And if ETH Talk can help you do that, then I'm all too happy to provide that service. And next up here we've got the Vengeance that moved up from 19 million to 22 million, which is not bad. 3 million increase, definitely more than 10%, but I personally don't like the assault frigates because they are not the flavor of the moment. And again, I would prefer the cheaper and more volatile covered up stealth bombers, which have, I think, also bigger, way bigger volumes than the assault frigates at the moment. If CCP ever changes something on these assault frigates to try and bring them back in vogue, then maybe they could become more worthy. But at the moment, I'm really only keeping the Vengeance to basically keep an eye on that aspect of it, because I don't like these for active trading. So yeah, that's it for the Tech 2 market. Really not bad. You still have several sell opportunities, but it is important that you keep an eye on these and you try to spot these bottoms when they form, and then of course take the risk. Okay, I'm actually going to invest some ISK here and hope that in the upcoming weeks, months even, I'll be able to unload at a decent profit. But it happens decently regularly, as you can see. Next up, Tech 3 market, 33.15. Looks pretty good. So here we've got the Confessor that moved up to 70 million, actually moving back down a little bit on really decent supply. So I think last week I was really starting to spot that, except for maybe one destroyer, I think the Jackdaw, all of them felt really well supplied, which is something we'd not seen in a long time. Basically a fully supplied Tech 3 market. That means that the Confessor that was at a 6-month high is going back down a little bit. I think just a healthy correction, a full front page of new Confessors coming in is going to help that, and maybe we'll finally start to stabilize a little bit in this market. Next up we've got the Hecate, obviously shot up to 70, went back down to 60 and is showing some signs of stability. What's the supply looking like? Yeah, pretty decent. We still have some recent orders of 21, 15 and 12 coming in as well. This should help keep the Hecate decently stable, unless someone comes in with like huge volumes like here and here. That's all of a sudden going to double up to like 300-400 Hecates being bought in one go. That is always going to create a spike. But it used to be that this would be possible. It would be possible to create these spikes with nothing like such an outlier like right here, just because the volumes are not there on the seller side. So decently okay with this. Next up here we've got the Jackdaw again, normalizing below 60 million, and supply wise this is decent, especially 156 Jackdaws coming in right here is going to normally help with stability. Next up, I'm just going to go through this in order. I think the Legion shooting up from, okay, we've got 1 hour left. That's not going to be a problem. From 180 to 200 million. And yeah, this is what we don't like to see, of course. We get one order of 46 of them coming in. But after that, all of this is really recent since the buyout of the Legion. So someone made a move on the Legions. I'm not sure if I spotted it last week. It is possible that I said that the Legion could be in for this. I may have to recheck that if I want to find out, but obviously this is the example, right? A big buyout. All the Legions except for those just below 200 million were picked up. You get this big price spike, and now the gap needs to be plugged. I think if all the other ones are well supplied though, it's going to happen really quickly, and so that is why this could still be interesting if it's the only one it happened to. But it's not. Here's the Loki shooting up to 200 million as well. That means that we have that means that we had a buyout as well. Probably if we look at this here, everything below 207 million was probably just straight up bought out. But look at the swiftness of the response. Look at the huge amount. All of these less than 24 hours old. In fact, a lot of these are suspiciously close to one another. So it may be that that someone actually saw this and made their move on that, because these are really big volumes of Lokis coming in here, especially these 10, 10, 10, 10. That's pretty suspicious here. So what I think that could have happened here is a bit of like a double whammy. Someone spotted an alliance moving in, or knew that an alliance was going to move in on the Lokis, went in on the buying as well, and has now managed to put them back at a much higher price on the market here. So pretty good move. I mean, if these actually do get sold, then we're looking at a lot of money being made all of a sudden by this this person or this entity. But of course also a risky move, because if because of course now the Loki volume has already been plugged. It's only the Legion that's really open, and so people could still be producing and bringing Lokis to the market at this point already, and they're gonna undercut these prices, because anything even just below 200 million is gonna look like a really good price to them. So this was pretty risky in my opinion. Let's see what the Proteus has done. Proteus shot up as well, so this actually is starting to look like a concerted effort, an actual move by a major entity, because Proteus up to 219 million. Also decent volumes that have already been coming back to the market, as you can see right here in the last 24 hours. So this is almost looking like a Tech 3 manipulation attempt again, to be honest, because the Proteus, you can see again, wow, it shot up, must be pretty much empty, must be bought out. Look at that, didn't really happen. Volumes, nothing too special to report. There are still a lot of them that have been brought to the market, and a decent amount of them when it comes to basically the stocks that are available. This is risky and interesting. Here we've got this V-Pulse, the Destroyer, normalizing again below 60 million and decent volumes on the market. And then finally we've got the Tengu here, which moved up to 200 million and is now stabilizing, and we have decent volumes of Tengus available as well. And you can see here again that signature move apparently of putting them in volumes of 10 on the market. Do we have something like that in the Proteus somewhere? No, but I suspect that it could be these. I suspect that it could just be these. So this is interesting. Whoever did this, I don't know who you are, but if you want my opinion on this, it's really risky. This is a really risky move. Why? Because all of the destroyers are still decently stocked. It's only the Legion that's basically empty, and that means that the industrial potential that exists in the game for Tech 3 production can move on these cruisers pretty quickly as well. And thus, if you're trying to sell these now, like what we're seeing here with the Tengu, you're just not unloading these because there's enough potential to fill this gap with new production, and thus they're going to undercut you. So actually it looks to me like someone made a big move on the cruisers, trying to pump these up to 200 million, and now he's gonna try to resell them, which is what we're seeing right here in the Loki with these guys. But I personally feel that this is a very, very risky strategy, because, as I've said, the volumes are there on the market, and thus new production is just going to keep undercutting you. Pretty risky move, whoever made this, in my opinion. But very interesting, very entertaining to see this pattern. So whoever you did this, unfortunately, the volumes of 10 is a bad idea, because it's actually a recognizable pattern now, which is the first time that I actually spot and see that. Really interesting stuff though. Very cool. And then for the extra materials, 40, oh Jesus Christ, 40, 50, I'm again going to touch on these PI components for the citadels. So I've made a video speculating that this could be a little bit of a bubble, and so maybe some people that are pretty much only here for EVE Talk, I should really share that with you guys as well, I think. So we can clearly see that almost all of these advanced planetary materials have shot up substantially. Organic mortar applicators have not, but these honestly have been filled first as well. Were pretty easy to do. But here again, recursive computing. Here's the power core shooting up, sterile conduit shooting up really, really extremely highly. And again, for the wetware mainframes. Personally, I think this is way too big. So while it is true, I said that the reason I don't think that this is a sustainable increase in price is because these are also used in the current bosses, and so a decent amount of demand for these advanced PI materials is going to be just replaced, is going to be moved towards the Citadel production, but is not going to be a net increase in them. Of course, it is true that these are being used in more than just the Citadel base hulls, also in some of the modules. But I still think that just the fact that they are also used in post towers does not mean that prices are going to double like what they're doing here. So I think personally that this is a speculative move and that this is a little bit of a bubble. I think that these advanced planetary materials, when everything settles down, will actually settle in between these prices, maybe up a little bit, of course, from the 1.3 that we're seeing here, the trade range before all the information about Citadels came out. Definitely a little bit higher than that, certainly at first, but I think that these moves here are speculative and are bubble formations. Of course, only the future will be able to tell, but I think that this one is really interesting. Of course, I spot this one because I'm in the demand side of these. I still need a few more to actually be ready for the citadels themselves, and so I'm actually holding off a little bit on buying at the moment. I'm going to wait and see if there's actually a little bit of a retracing, a little bit of supply that could be coming back here, because I think that this is a little bit too much for these advanced PI materials. That's what I wanted to share with you guys again with this extra material. I'm repeating myself from the video with the skill trading, where I also cover this in more detail, but I think it's worth it to add this to ETH Talk, because I rarely do predictions. But in that video I did make 2 predictions, and one is that this will retrace back a lot of their gains, these advanced PI materials, especially the ones that are shooting up so violently in the last few weeks. And I think that Plex will of course move up quite substantially as we approach the Citadel expansion once again. Anyways, that's it for this ETH Talk then, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.